Okay, thank you everybody for listening in and joining us today with our webinar. It's titled Management in Mediation Webinar, Becoming a Conflict Capable Leader. My name's Jerome Witter. I'm a Senior Resolution Consultant at TCM. My main role is I'm a trained mediator in workplace disputes, and I also train HR professionals, managers and business leaders to become accredited mediators within their organization. I'm also joined today by
Bola Ogini. I'm a resolution consultant here at TCM. I deliver various trainings and mediations as well also.
And Bola and I, we also are instrumental in helping organizations set up internal mediation schemes and internal resolution schemes. So the aim of the webinar today is really to look at the place of mediation in modern management and the link between strong leadership and mediation, which is where we coined the term Leadiation. So we want to examine and discuss how mediation training can make managers more effective leaders. And this webinar has come about through discussions that we've had with clients and organizations, trying to take a look at the cost of conflict to an organization who don't have an alternative dispute resolution culture or an internal mediation scheme set up, the level of professional training managers receive in managing disputes or difficult conversations, and really the skills needed to be able to confidently be able to deal with conflict in the workplace. So we will also have some polls throughout today, which we'd like you to participate in. The webinar will be roughly how long today?
Say about 40 minutes.
So we'll ask for your attention for about 40 to 45 minutes, and we really would appreciate your participation and feedback. And in the end, we'd really like to hear your final opinions as whether you feel conflict resolution training, does it make leaders and managers more effective? So you've heard a little bit about us, but who is TCM and what do we do as Total Conflict Management Company?
TCM is a management consultancy with a difference. We're passionate about what we do, about dialogue, collaboration, working with people, because we understand that people are integral in every organization. Our mission is to become the world leader in all aspects of collaborative and non-adversary business practices. We've been in business over 12 years now. Our core services include employee and industrial relations, consulting and training. We've set up over 300 integrated resolution schemes in organizations across the UK. We also employ a team of full-time mediators and trainers supported by world-leading associates, and also we are accredited by Customer First.
Thank you very much. So I think we'll start our presentation now. So initially, managing conflict. What is conflict? Now, conflict is an unavoidable part of most work environments, and modern organizations today, they're varied and complex. They're made up of people with increasingly diverse backgrounds, attitudes, beliefs, values, and also expectations about work. This in turn means that organizations are under increasing pressure to be more adaptive or productive. They have to demonstrate strong leadership and find innovative ways to deliver quality services to clients. I feel the barrier to this is often the unmanaged, shoved under the carpet, let them sort it out, nothing to see here approach to conflict in the workplace. And these attitudes, if not challenged, can result in drastic effects in your employee relations, but also on an organization's bottom line. Now, conflict raises its head in a variety of ways, and in some ways it can be constructive. For example, whether that's fair competition between individuals and teams, the ability to generate new ideas and innovation, problem solving, and team bonding. And if you take a look at the image now, you'll see Alex Ferguson there, who is undisputably the greatest manager or football manager of all time, of the greatest football team of all time, which I will biasly say is Manchester United, if you don't know. And Alex Ferguson has been recognized for his strong management and leadership skills, maybe not so much for his mediation skills. But what you'll find in terms of constructive conflict is if you look at, say, a football team in general, let's say the scenarios at halftime, the team's losing or drawing, and what will happen is they'll go into the dressing room and some home truths will be spoken, whether that's by the manager or the players. And in the second half, Everyone comes out with a different attitude. They're aware of their responsibilities. There may be new solutions or tactics that are given out to reach the group objective, and overall it should result in a better performance, and this is what we want for organizations. However, if not controlled, you can get a team of players disagreeing with each other, not giving the extra 10% needed, or forming cliques against a squad or the manager. And in a workplace environment, destructive conflict can often lead to the same consequences. But added to that, you've got things escalating into grievances, sicknesses, absences from the organization, and potentially losing talent or skills from your business. Now, managers and leaders are often positioned to notice the initial subtle changes in staff behaviors, you know, the BCCing in emails, the withdrawal, the lack of communication, the gossiping that may occur. But often, unfortunately, these things are just not picked up and they're ignored. And this potentially could be why. According to recent research by the Center for Effective Dispute Resolution, over a third of managers would rather parachute jump for the first time than address a problem with their team at work. Wow.
That's interesting, because what that means is, due to lack of understanding or possibly the framework needed to be able to engage in these difficult conversations, some managers and leaders then shy away from it. But the opportunity you now have is to understand, how does this tie in? How does this work? How can we understand what we need to do? How can we engage in having these difficult conversations and helping parties move on from their present positions?
That's excellent. And the issue is if conflict is not managed directly, I think at that early stage, having those difficult conversations, like you said, leaders and managers' responsibilities in helping parties to resolve their differences will become much more difficult. So often, you know, the question is, well, whose responsibility is it to handle conflict? And this is one of the questions that we posed out in our survey prior to the webinar. And nearly 80% of respondents thought that it's the manager's responsibility to handle conflict at work. Yet we've just seen and discussed from the CEDAR report and Bollard and I's experience that over a third of managers would rather parachute jump for the first time than manage a conflict at work. But yet what's more surprising is that when Boller and I go out and we do mediate in organization, in our experience, it's often the managers themselves who are parties in that disagreement. So what interests me is taking a look at the employee and colleague relationship, but also the manager and the employee relationship in conflict. And this is where it brings us to what is commonly known as the psychological contract. Now, understanding the psychological contract is becoming increasingly more relevant, I think, aspect of workplace relationships between employees and managers. The idea of the psychological contract first originated in the 1960s by behavioral theorists. I think it was Chris Agaris and Edgar Schein. Now, in its basic sense, the psychological contract represents the obligations, rights, rewards that an employer believes he or she is owed by the employer in return for that employee's work, loyalty, etc. The employer or manager also, though, has specific expectations and perceptions on the performance, the attitudes and behaviors of an employee. Now, the reason why it's an iceberg model is a typical characteristic of an iceberg is that 90% is often hidden or unseen beneath the water. Now, a person's psychological contract is quite different to an employee's physical contract, which is clearly defined expectations and behaviors, etc. Psychological contracts are based on unwritten rules. They're about perceptions and expectations that people have between individuals, but they do carry huge significance to the smooth running of a work environment. So as well as a salary, job security, a good pension scheme, sickness, holiday entitlement, individuals are also looking for respect, validation, appreciation, empathy, trust, fairness, objectivity. And qualities like these are characteristic of that psychological contract, just as they're with our everyday relationships and our outlook on life. So in our survey, 30% of respondents thought that between 40 to 50% of grievances in their organizations were related somehow to manager and employee relationships. So obviously, if that's the case, this is going to have a huge cost and impact on the productivity and quality of service that you would wish to see. That's why it's important for managers and leaders to be aware of the dangers of not managing conflict effectively. So let's take a look at conflict.
Some of the workplace conflict organizational costs include the risk of time-consuming formal proceedings, such as grievances and employment tribunal claims. Sickness absence costs will spiral as the individuals concerned take time off to deal with their personal issues with the effects such as stress of the conflict, which then impacts on their performance at work. Staff turnover is very high, and the re-recruitment and retraining costs where conflict leads to the departure of those affected from the organization. Another key one is poor working relationships within teams that are affected. Yet traditionally, when conflict occurs within an organization, the approach is to try to deal with it in a potentially adversarial manner, for example, through a formal grievance process.
Now, in my opinion, besides often being quite unhelpful, these approaches don't actually really deal with the underlying reasons as to why conflict generated in the first place and what led to the breakdown of that relationship. Now, mediation offers an alternative to these traditional processes that we've just looked at: formal, adversarial, judgmental, draconian, win-lose, that combative approach to it. Mediation enables people to discuss a mutually acceptable solution in the hope of avoiding these costly investigations and employment tribunals and all of the things that Ola's just described. What we're looking for is constructive adult-to-adult dialogue between individuals for them to find that mutually agreeable solution to their own problems. Now, for those of you who kind of, we like data, we want quantitative return on investment approach to decision making. From our survey, if we take a look at the cost of employment tribunals to companies each year, just under 20% of you are saying that grievances and employment tribunals are costing, over £500,000 a year. Again, over 10%, anywhere between 50,000 and 100,000 a year. What's more striking is that over 50% actually don't know how much your grievances and employment tribunals are costing your companies for the year. So that's why I would suggest, for those of you who are, if you invest in an internal resolution scheme or invest in having practical mediation trainings for your HR professionals or your managers, you'll be giving your organization, your employees and managers a greater opportunity to create not only a happier working environment, but a more productive working environment. But it's not just me and Bola saying this. Government thinking has also started to take a look at mediation and conflict resolution at work. Now, mediation is used predominantly in the areas of family, civil, and commercial disputes. It's well established there. Workplace mediation, not necessarily as popular, not yet. That's our mission, to make it more so. But following the Michael Gibbons review of employment dispute resolution in 2007, ACAS updated their code of practice on discipline and grievance, and it introduced a specific reference to mediation in its foreword. Now, to implement this shift in thinking on staff well-being and engagement, it's essential that HR managers and leaders have the necessary skills that are central to modern management. So awareness of mediation is rising. It's becoming more and more recognized as a viable alternative dispute resolution option. But is it mainstream in your organization? That's what I want to know. So I'd like to put our first poll out. So let's get it out.
How many attendees have successfully used mediation in the last 12 months to settle a dispute?
So yes, have you used mediation and used it successfully? No, have you not used mediation at all? Or yes, you've used mediation, but it has been unsuccessful. So we'll just give it a few more seconds for your results to come in. Okay, so we'll stop it there. So 55% of you have said yes, you have used mediation successfully. Well done. 40% of you have said no, you haven't used mediation, and that's probably maybe you either have an organization that has very little or no conflict, or again to the CEDA report, where we're just not sure how to do mediations, or we're still using those traditional ways of trying to handle conflict by grievances. So I think it's probably important to everyone has a real clear understanding of what mediation actually is.
So for mediation is an opportunity for parties in conflict to come together in a safe space and environment where they can discuss the issues in an open and honest manner. And parties in conflict are always encouraged to come voluntarily so that they can discuss these issues. And one of the roles of the mediator is not to take sides. So a mediator is neutral, is impartial, is a third party who promotes the essential thing that has been lacking all the while between the two conflicting or more parties, dialogue between them, the opportunity for them to have that honest, open discussion where they can listen to each other and appreciate and understand maybe where the misunderstandings or misconceptions are being, and then they are able to then clear it up during the course of the meeting, and it's facilitated in a constructive manner. And early intervention can prevent both sides from becoming entrenched in their positions and beliefs about one another. And this improves the likelihood of maintaining good and productive employment relations in the longer term and managing a successful and productive team.
And that's what mediation is. It can sound quite simple in essence, two people in a room talking and listening. And that's what mediation is. But unfortunately, in our current modern workplace, people just don't have the time to do it, or they don't see the benefits of these soft skills or soft approaches to handling disputes. And this is why we're trying to raise the awareness of managers for them to be more confident and capable to use mediation as a viable tool to settle their disputes. So one of the questions that often gets posed is, well, do managers make good mediators? Well, TCM conducted a survey of some of our clients and contacts to see whether they did actually think managers made good mediators. And the results, whilst not NASA level scientific proof, it was very interesting, if not wholly conclusive. Now, 56% thought that yes, managers would make good mediators, and 44% thought they would not. Now, the Behaviours camp highlighted the unique insight and abilities a manager could bring to the situation, and that's probably just by understanding the culture of the organization and the personalities involved in the conflict, having that little bit more insight. The nayers thought that the possible close relationship with the parties or the manager's vested interest in the outcome meant it would be incredibly difficult to remain completely impartial. Now, both of these claims have valid points. However, I believe the hesitation and fear around impartiality and objectivity can be overcome with the right training and development. And Sally Bright, the employment rights officer at the trade union conference, said, and I quote, "There is definitely a place for managers conducting mediation, especially if a dispute is between two colleagues. But it's vital that the managers involved have the appropriate level of mediation training." Now, unfortunately, competencies and capabilities are key when looking into management and management skills, but people skills are something that have not been prioritized for UK managers. So this is why TCM is dedicated in helping workplaces acquire the skills needed to really manage conflict effectively to sustain that employee relationship. Bola and I, I'm sure you'll back me up, we believe that mediation, when used appropriately, can offer a fresh approach to organizations who just want to avoid the potentially destructive effects, as we've spoken about, of that drawn out conflict. And the aim is to really affect the cultural change that's needed for the modern manager and the modern workplace, which leads us to the kind of nitty gritty of our webinar today, which is leadership, management, and mediation. So, in today's tough economic climate, it's not uncommon to find disgruntled employees, tension and conflict in the workspace. Relationships between co-workers become strained. Relationships can break down altogether. But organizational leaders at all levels need to be aware of this and take a much more proactive approach to ensure productivity and efficiency are not affected. And this will, as long as all your other measures, will include confidently coming in and dealing with conflict issues quickly so they don't spiral out of control. And when it comes to performance and impact, we've got some statistics here that are from our survey. So I think if we analyze that, just under 40% of you have realized that conflict has had some negative effect on employee performance in the last 12 months. Just under 20% have said that it's had a large impact. A few of you have said that it's had no impact. And again, almost up to 30% has said that it's had a little and just under very little effect. Now, Bola and I both agree that strategic leadership, good management, and resolving conflict are the combination of skills needed to maximize employee performance in the modern relationship. So before we go on, I just want to remind you about our final poll towards the end of the day, where we're really going to try and take a look at, does conflict resolution training make leaders and managers more effective? And Carol Russell, head of ER and BT Retail, has introduced mediation into BT's organization, and those words there really, I think, say it all. But I think when it comes to leadership and mediation, often they're viewed as quite separately, and I think that the link between a good leader and good mediator is quite striking, and it's trying to look at how can strong leadership be shown via mediation, which is where we coin the original term of leadiation. So I think, like good leaders and managers, good mediators motivate people through difficult times in order to achieve agreeable goals. I think by combining those strong management skills and leadership skills that you have with practical mediation training, you have the basis for becoming a leadiator within your organization. Now, the key similarities that struck me when I was looking into this is, if we look at the first point, leadership, many workplace conflicts involve leadership challenges. In the majority of places, at least one party in the process is a manager, supervisor, or team leader. And Bola, I'm sure most of your mediations recently have been in a similar vein.
Yeah, that's correct. It involves a lot of senior managers, HR professionals, and this gives them the opportunity to be able to come together in the room where you can then facilitate that conversation between the parties and help them see how they can move on and move forward for the better good of one, the organization, two, in particular for the parties themselves, because there's so much they can offer the business, the organizations they are involved in.
And I think, exactly as you said, but even when one of the parties in the mediation is not a manager, often you'll find it's either management or leadership style is mentioned at some point during the process. So I think it's important that managers are aware of their management or leadership style, mainly so that they can adapt their situation to the people that they're trying to lead, and probably more important, handle any discord or disagreement and help to try and promote a resolution-orientated culture. Our practical mediation skills course can help managers who maybe are not so aware and adaptive with conflict be more mindful when they're managing their teams by identifying conflict, managing conflict, and hopefully resolving internal disputes. And communication is at the heart, I think, of all work environments. And leaders and managers are often expected to communicate difficult messages or communicate in difficult situations. And communication is often what I call the main protagonist in conflict. That can be in the form of miscommunication, which is common, lack of communication, or an actual misunderstanding of what was said. Now, differences in communication style can also lead to conflict, whether it's through frustrations, misunderstandings, and not understanding the intent or meaning of the message. Now, by training with TCM to be a more effective communicator and active listener, I feel that our courses allow managers to develop questioning, summarizing and reframing skills, which kind of, it allows you to be able to really gain some clarity and set out what are the main points of controversy. What are the real issues here in this conflict? What do you two parties really need to be able to move forward? And also, by understanding particular skills like reframing, be able to diffuse tension between the warring parties by understanding the underlying feelings and emotions behind language that people often use when it comes to conflict. Now, as part of that role as a mediator, it's about coaching ability. Coaching and strong leadership is where you set goals and you plan ways of how you're going to meet them. And for managers, I think coaching through mediation is useful, as you're able to shift parties from that very narrow positional, justice orientated, I can't work with them, I want them sacked way of thinking, to a much more reflective, positive and innovative way of looking at the situation. You'll be able to allow parties to really reflect and evaluate on a lot more than just their initial assumptions and thoughts about the situation or person. Now, if you're able to do that as a mediator, this is probably going to increase the likelihood of more effective and sustainable behavioral change, which will transfer in the wider success of the business. And something that we always bang on about when we're dealing with mediations is the need for it to be future focused and solution focused. That's what we're always aiming and looking towards. And leadership is all about, understanding where you are right now, the vision of where you want to be, and how we're going to work to achieve that vision. And mediation is exactly the same, in that its purpose is to create or allow the parties to create a clear vision to work towards, have specific solution-focused requests from each other in order to make that vision become a reality. And that's what it is. What is it specifically that both of you need? Let's examine that, okay? Is there a way for both those needs to be met? And if they can be, these are my commitments and accountability, my agreement to you, to this working relationship moving forward. And the last one, which I think is quite important, is based around trust. It takes a long time to earn. It can be broken very, very quickly. Now, I don't feel you can be a great leader or manager without trust. You may have that compelling vision, you've got that rock solid strategy, excellent communication skills, innovative insight, you've got that really great team. But if people don't trust you, you will not get the results you want. Now, in mediation, mistrust fosters the dissent and frustration, and in an organization, the exact same things equal with low productivity. By being able to establish or rebuild that trust, that's an essential skill which a manager will help do so that those two parties can understand the ongoing relationship where people work as a team. Now, leaders who have been trained with mediation, will have the required skills to be able to assist the parties to rebuild that trust. So by introducing mediation services or a mediated approach to conflict resolution in your organization, you'll be demonstrating your commitment to recognizing and, more importantly, proactively supporting others in resolving issues. This will also to help rebuild trust which may have been lost, and especially help rebuild those working relationships in the turbulent times of conflict. So that's my explanation of leadiation, of leadership and management combined. So I want to do another quick poll very quickly. And here it is.
How many of you want to be pioneers for mediation and become leadiators within your organization?
So how many of you want to be champions of mediation in your organizations, really affect that behavioral change, find alternative ways of managing workplace disputes? Do you want to do that? Yes, please. I want my mediator cape. Or no, not right now. Or some of you may not sure. Let's see what we have. We'll close it shortly. Okay, so let's put a pause on it. Okay, so 50% of you have said yes, please, you want to become a leadiator in your organization, which ties in with the 12% that says, will you get a special cape? You have to earn it, but I can guarantee you, Bola will hand stitch your mediator cape if you agree to become a leadiator within your organization. For those of you who are not sure, again, you'll be able to gather more information from our TCM website after the webinar if you want to find out more information. So for those of you who are interested or not sure, let's take a look at, what are the necessary skills needed to be able to become a leadiator.
So, people management is one of the fundamental roles for the modern manager. It should be an expectation that we provide our managers with the right level of skills. This is very important because without the right skills, it's going to be difficult for you as a mediator to really facilitate that conversation, help the parties come together and then have an honest and open discussion. And this is important because then they were able to deal with difficult conversations in the workplace.
Now, we did again a poll where we said when was the last time you had any formal training in conflict resolution, and over 50% of respondents had had no conflict resolution training at all. Never fear, that's why Bola and I are here today. We believe that the necessary skills applied in the right way through mediation will not only result in a more productive environment, but will show your teams that the organization is really taking their issues seriously. Staff want to feel that their issues are being recognized and addressed, and that some form of constructive solution is being sought. Now, mediation in itself can seem quite simple, just two people talking and listening. However, an effective and accomplished mediator needs to understand the process, the skill set and best practice for mediation to be effective and for you to be able to be trained in the appropriate techniques. Now, our 2-day practical mediation skills training provides managers and leaders with the necessary skills, the competencies and the strategies to undertake an effective mediation intervention as part of your existing role. So our PMS courses, they're run based on our experience of working with previous managers and leaders across the UK, and covers all of the necessary skills, practicalities, which can be used to either diffuse potential conflicts or actual disputes and managing those effectively. So some of the kind of key benefits of being on our training.
Some of the benefits are participants will understand the principles, the process and the practical applications of mediation, which is very important. If you know what you're going to be doing, then it makes it a lot easier for you to engage in that particular area. You also benefit from the skills necessary to preserve the psychological contract by detecting, preventing conflict from escalating and resolving conflicts at an early stage. This is very important because if we can nip it in the bud at the beginning, then it makes it a lot easier in every organization. Also, you will learn the FAIR model process on how to set up and conduct a successful internal mediation. As well, you'll be able to gain the confidence to be able to facilitate workplace disputes.
So that's, those are some of the key benefits of by becoming a trained mediator, by being a champion leadiator in your organization. So for those of you who have said, yes, please, I'm interested, or you may want some more information, or how do you get your special mediator cape, there's some information there based on how you can contact us. The information as to why you should choose us. We've got over 12 years experience of delivering this training. We pride ourselves on our excellent customer service. We've just recently won a Customer First Award working with our clients. And we understand that different organizations have different needs. So we don't just offer a standard course that we roll out to everybody. We do open access courses where you can come to us in our environment, or we can actually go into your organization and deliver a bespoke practical mediation skills course tailored to your specific needs. So if you want more information, you've got our contact details here on the screen. You can contact our business development team and they'd love to hear from you. Also, there's some dates on our website, www.thetcm group, where you can get some information and also the potential for some multiple bookings. So what I would like to look at is our final poll, and to really take the temperature of how many of you are feeling, and which is, does conflict resolution training make more effective managers and leaders? So let's see what you say. Okay, so just a few more minutes, seconds even, we don't have that long. This is the poll that I'm really interested in. Okay, and we'll pause it there. So the results are in, and almost 100% of you have indicated that yes, leadiation will make managers and leaders more effective. Now, I think that by undergoing the necessary training, you can play a pivotal role in changing basic cultures and attitudes to conflict resolution. You know, this is a level of behavioral and cultural change a highly trained leadiator can influence. You know, if you want to find out more on how to become a conflict capable leader via our TCM training or any other conflict resolution services that we offer, please get in touch. There will be a recording of this webinar, and a copy of the slides will be available on our TCM YouTube channel. But for now, I'd just like to say thank you for listening and participating.
Thank you so much for listening also, and we look forward to hearing from you.
And I look forward to working with many of you and becoming leadiators in your organization. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.